time in the European Parliament highlighting this issue day after day in his meetings with the Commission and parliamentary leaders. It's really tragic that he's not in the European Parliament, but he's going to continue campaigning for the causes of Kashmir and Muslims. Please give a very warm Mancunian welcome to Wajid Khan.
Thank you, Manchester. And what a fantastic gathering we've already got now, because we in Manchester and the northwest of England, we feel the pain that the Kashmiri people are suffering on a daily basis. And I salute the Kashmiri people, because for over 70 years they have suffered. Women have been raped, children tortured and shot, disappeared, and there's mass graves in Indian-controlled Kashmir. That shouldn't be happening, because Kashmiri blood isn't cheaper than British blood, European blood, or Mancunian blood. So today we show solidarity to those people in Kashmir who for many, many days, over 25 days, have been cut off from the world. People cannot get through to their loved ones. And just imagine this, if we rung up Nicola Sturgeon in Scotland and Hollywood and said, we're now shutting off you people, we're going to put you under house arrest, lock all the leaders in Scotland away. Would we accept that now? So why should we accept what's happening in Kashmir? So, ladies and gentlemen, the Kashmiri people are not asking for charity, they are asking for rights. Those rights promised to them under United Nations resolutions. So United Nations, I ask you to do your job. We mustn't be ignoring what's happening. People are bleeding. Kashmiris are giving their blood every day for a number of years. So we mustn't go away from here and look at this as speeches and go home and comfy ourselves in our homes and put the telly on. I ask all of you, if you can't, just do one thing, please. On the 2nd of September, which is Monday, the Foreign Affairs Committee is having a meeting on the situation in Kashmir. This is the European Parliament Foreign Affairs Committee. We all have Google at home. Go through the members of that list. They have their email addresses attached to their names. Please, I urge you all to email them your disgust, your dissatisfaction, and your shock of what's happening over in Mahbouza Kashmir. That will shape their views on how they brief and discuss the Kashmir issue on Monday. It's 2 seconds to just Google and a couple of minutes just to please email each one of the members on that committee, because they need to know that Kashmiris over there have a voice here. We have to make sure, we have to put that in action by writing to them MEPs for them to understand, the Foreign Affairs Committee, that we care about what's happening in Kashmir. We cannot tolerate this. We will do everything. We will sacrifice our time, our efforts, and everything for them people. They have sacrificed blood. Let's see what we can sacrifice. So are you going to be ready for this? Yes. Are you going to write to them MEPs and your MEPs? Yes. Are you going to give up on the Kashmiris? Yes. Are you going to fight for them? Yes. Are you going to campaign for their freedom? Yes. What do we want? Freedom. When do we want it? Yes. Thank you very much indeed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon you all. My name is Dr. Abdulaziz from Muslim Association of Britain. We stand here for the rights, human rights, and what India is doing is what China is doing to the Uyghurs. They are taking a role of that as well, a model, to wipe out Kashmir completely for business and roads to take their goods to the world. I tell them the Silk Road which made by the Muslims didn't need the blood of people. It did not need the blood. This business is stained with blood. And it's why we launched the divestment and boycotting of India goods and products in Britain here. And that is the least you can do. The Prophet said, when you see something wrong, you change it with your hand. If you cannot, with your tongue. And if we cannot, in your heart, and that is the list of faith. I ask you all, like the brother said, to join Kashmir Human Rights WhatsApp group, and there is an action plan. Letter to the Prime Minister, which I have done myself. Letter to my MEP, I have done myself. The template is there, you sign it and we send it. And I read you just one, as the brother said, where to the 2nd of September, MEPs will join. You know what is happening in the world? Because of July and August recess, most of the massacres and genocide take place in July and August. Because most of the West is on holiday, and we are on holiday, and we take advantage of that. And therefore we should stand up as people, as a civil society, against wrong and for justice for everyone. And I tell you, the letter which I just sent to my MEP, which we condemn the revocation of 370 Article 35A to give Kashmir and Jammu their self-determination referendum decided in 1947. And we say, occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 1, 2, 3, 4. India is a terrorist state. 1, 2, 3, 4. India is a terrorist state. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. Stop the slaughter. Stop the slaughter. Stop the slaughter. Stop the slaughter. 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 Slaughter torture. Our brothers and our daughter. Stop the slaughter. Slaughter torture. Stop the slaughter. Slaughter torture. And the occupation now. 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 Free, free Kashmir. 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 Boys, don't forget. Civilian blood is everywhere. Boys, don't you care. Civilian blood is everywhere. Boys, don't you care. Civilian blood is everywhere. Modi, win are you? Hitler was a killer too. Modi, win. Hitler was a killer too. Modi, win are you? Hitler was a killer too. Modi, win are you? Hitler was a killer too. Modi, win are you? Hitler was a killer too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist state. And the occupation now. 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 Kashmir, don't you cry. We will never let you die. Kashmir, don't you cry. We will never let you die. Kashmir, don't you cry. We will never let you die. Kashmir, don't you cry. We will never let you die. Free, free Kashmir. 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 Thank you very much.
Just think about People who have no food, no water, no medication. This is what the government has tried 26 days ago with our brothers and sisters in Kashmir. We need to raise our voice. It looks like the world is sleeping. They are not listening to the cries of the people of Kashmir. We need to wake them up. We need to cry. We need to speak. We need to wake up the world. We need to wake up the United Nations to do something about it. It's been a very long time that Kashmiri people are suffering from the genocide, the killing, the rape. It's time now that the Kashmiris should be given their freedom of right. We need to carry on protesting. We need to carry on raise our voices. We need to carry on raise the voices of the Kashmiri people. We know that at the moment our brothers and sisters cannot raise their voice from there because all the communication is shut down. We need to become their voice. So just think about that. It's us who are calling on their behalf for justice. So we all need to work hard towards the freedom of our Kashmiri brothers and sisters. We strongly condemn the Indian government for what they are doing to Indian occupied Kashmir. Let's carry on with this movement now. We should not stop now. We need to carry on to let our brothers and sisters have their freedom as soon as possible. लेकिन हम तो उनकी आवाज बन सकते हैं ना, तो प्लीज आप अपनी जो है आवाज को बुलंद कीजिए, अपनी आवाज को हर कोने पे उठाइए ताकि उनकी आवाज जो है उन सके जो फौरन खामोशी से अपने इज्जत के लिए चुप करके बैठे हुए हैं.
We as Kashmiris will not be the victims anymore. I want you to say that. We as Kashmiris will not be the victims anymore. We are not the perpetrators. We are not the ones that caused this evil. But we are not the bystanders. We cannot stand by when this evil is taking place in front of our eyes. Please, brothers and sisters, each and every one of you has a duty and a responsibility to humanity to stand up when evil and oppression and hate, death, destruction, murder, massacre, genocide, rape are taking place in our world, are happening to our people. If it's not you, it's not connected to you, it may be you next. It doesn't matter if you are not Kashmiri, you belong to one race, the human race. Please raise your voices for humanity. Please awaken the humanity today.
One, two. Check mic, 1, 2. 1, 2. Check mic, 1, 2.
Free, free!
Two.
Free, free! Free, free! Free, free!
2. 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 2. 1, 2. 2. 2.
Free, free. What do we want? What we want? What we want? do we want? When do we want it?
1, 2. Check.
The atrocities and the genocide and the Holocaust being committed by the Indian government in the eyes of the international community. If this atrocity, this genocide and the Holocaust was being committed anywhere else in the world, especially in the West and especially in Europe, the whole world would have taken action.
1, 2, 2, 1, 2, check, 1,
Would
2,
come to
2,
the aid
2.
of that particular country. And right now, the killings, the mob lynching, and the mass murder, state terrorism being carried out by the Indian government through their armed forces on the innocent men, women and children and the elderly is despicable, and we condemn it in the strongest words. And we today stand in solidarity with our Kashmiri brothers and sisters, and we want to tell them that no matter what happens, we stand with you. And today, attendance here shows that the people of Manchester, no matter what community they belong to, no matter what race and religion they belong to, we all stand with Kashmir. Do we all stand with Kashmir? Raise your hands. Yes. And we condemn the state terrorism and the Holocaust and the genocide being committed by the Modi government. And we demand that the Modi government and the Indian military vacate this beautiful land of Kashmir. And the Indian government right now is not thinking with a straight head and wants to wage a war on a people who are unarmed, who are innocent, who have the only right that they want is self-determination. And that is a basic human right. And we demand the United Nations to please come and take action in Kashmir. Send your forces and establish peace in this land. And the people of Kashmir have the right to self-determination. Are we in support of the Kashmiris for self-determination? Raise your hands.
We want freedom! We want freedom! We want freedom! We want freedom!
When do we want it? When do we want it? Free Kashmir! We want freedom! We want freedom!
Oh my God, no. Something bad.
The step Modi has taken. The step Modi has taken. The fascist BJP and the RSS Nazis. Kashmir is still in lockdown. What they are doing now is subjugating the Kashmiris, trying to break their spirit. And what they are trying to do is they are going to repatriate the Kashmiris. So this is their plan. Now, they have also opened a front in Assam where the Bangladeshi refugees have not been given ID cards or citizenship, whereas the Bangladeshi Hindus have been given ID cards and passports. Now this is what it's, they are trying to force these refugees into camps. Now, we Sikhs are with you. My name is Tanna Singh from Khalistan Liberation Force. But
Hi guys, thank you so much for coming.
Tannaji,
Sat Shri Akal. Tannaji, this way. Guys, I've just got some volunteers handing out some do's and don'ts on housekeeping. If you can just have a read and pass them around, we'll start very shortly. Just have a look out for these small A5 leaflets. I'll quickly go through them very quickly. Don't break the law. Don't react to provocation. Don't use abusive or threatening language. Please do not attack any religion. Do not indulge in any antisocial behavior. We do have a no flag policy. We've got lots of placards. If possible, we're going to ask you to use the placards. Guys, also, if you're going past the petition there, you have to start signing. In terms of dues, please show courtesy and friendship to everyone. Respect the security barriers. Please show respect to the families, especially the women and the children here. In fact, if we can have room so that the women and the kids can come to the front, especially the families. Guys, can we let the women, the children and the families come to the front? My brothers, you have excellent ears, so I'm sure you can hear me just as well from there.
नजर कमजोर हो जाती ठीक है ना ठीक है अस्सलामुअलैकुम ठीक हो ना और कट नजर अच्छे कुदर होने हो
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, can we have the families to the front, please? Especially the kids. It's important that they come to the front and see what's going on. They're our next generation. They will take this forward. Please make some room for them. My brothers, can you hear me? We all speak English? Can we make some room? Okay, we're going to start in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Can I welcome first Hafiz Wajid Rahman to read the Tilawat, please?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. وما يكذبك بعد بالدين. أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. صدق الله العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum. Oldham. Bolton. Blackburn, Burnley. The whole of the Northwest is here. Today, we're going to be standing with the people of Kashmir. But we're going to do it our way, the Manchester way. And that is this. We're going to put the children and families at the front and foremost. You've all seen the list of do's and don'ts. Please try and adhere to them. Afterwards, we're going to clear up. If you can volunteer and help us, please do so. Do come and meet the guests at the front. We'd love to speak to you. There's a petition in the tent over there. It's being organised by Debbie Abrahams and Councillor Nyla is looking after it. Please sign, because attending rallies is all well and good, but we need to take action. Lost children, there's a lost kids tent there. If you need first aid, please go to that tent. You've got the stewards around you in high-vis vests. Any problems, please approach them. We'll have a wonderful array of speakers today. At the end of the event, we'd like to take some photo opportunities. It's really important that the families, the women and the kids stay behind. Do use the following hashtags: Manchester stands with Kashmir, hashtag Save Kashmir, hashtag Day 26. Today's theme is about stories. It's about evil people doing bad things to innocent people, women and children. But the story does not end there. It's about good people, people like you and I, and what we do when we see bad happening around us. Do we stay quiet? Do we stay silent? No, because that's not us. That's not who we are as a people. We cannot allow evil to win, because when all we have to do is for good people to stay silent, that's how evil wins. Today is the 26th day since Kashmir has been caged. A nation was promised freedom, democracy, but instead it's been given a total shutdown. Do you know what they're doing? They're blinding them with pellet guns. I've heard they're going into houses and abducting the children in the middle of the night. And it's designed purely to terrorize the women. Because they know, to a mother, the most important thing is her child. They know what they're doing. Today, a curtain of terror has descended to silence the voices of the Kashmiri people. But we are their voice. We will be their hands. We will be their eyes, and we will stand in unity with them. 2 years ago, in Manchester, we were visited by terror. They tried to divide us. Did they succeed? No, we responded with love, strength, and unity. This country, Britain, our country, has always rejected terror. In World War II, my grandfather, our grandfathers, our forefathers fought to stop the Nazis. Yet today, the BJP, the RSS, started in 1925. At the same time as Mussolini, the Nazis and Hitler. They love these guys. They even use the swastika. They are now in power. Their dream is to have a pure Indian Hindu master race. Their world is the opposite of everything that we stand for as Great Britain. They're against democracy. They're against the rule of law, liberty, respect, and tolerance. And this is what today is really about. As I look at you today, I wonder, how did you hear about today? How did you come? When you heard about the weather, the rain, did you think, maybe today I might not go? But still you came. Let me quickly tell you why I came. I heard a story from a Kashmiri girl, and I made a promise to her that I will not stop until she can speak to her mum. Let me invite her onto stage to tell you firsthand her story. Please come on. Munazza from Srinagar.
Kashmir! 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 1, 2, 3, 4! 1, 2, 3, 4! 5, 6, 7, 8! Thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming out here. I'm Munazza, and I call Manchester my home, and I'm a very, very proud Mancunian. But today, as I stand here, I stand in front of you to speak for the people, for my motherland, who have been silenced.
Today, I stand here to tell you about Kashmir, which stands desolate and has been turned into an open prison. As I stand here, it is very, very ironic to think that I stand here to express my free will and opinion, but my people, in this same moment, in this same day, in this same time, they cannot raise their voice. They have been silenced. The voices, not only have the voices of my people been silenced, but they have been caged like animals, as if ready to be slaughtered. Or maybe they're already slaughtered, for I know not for the last 26 days what is happening in my valley. As you all know, I stand here, 26 days of silence, no news from my parents, no news from my near and dear ones, no news from my friends. Can you imagine, as normal human beings, how long can you go on without talking to anybody? How long can you function normally without knowing how your loved ones are doing? I can't. I don't. I feel numb. I've cried, I've screamed, I've been to rallies, but it doesn't help because nothing is changing there. But what is more interesting for us Kashmiris, that this is not new. We have been struggling with this hell for the last 30 years, although our struggle for freedom started back in 1947 when Britain left India. We have seen the world watch in silence as our youth disappeared into thin air. We have seen the world watch in silence as our children were blinded by pellet guns. We have seen the mothers snatched away, their motherhood being snatched away from them. Our women have been turned into graves. Our love stories have been turned into Shakespearean tragedies. We have seen the Macbeth of death in Kashmir before today. But what we see today is unprecedented even for us, even for me, who was a child of this turmoil, who was born in this, who was raised in this. It is unprecedented because even if there is no media going in there, even if they're not letting us voice our opinions, I can close my eyes and I swear I can tell you what will be happening there. I can tell you the air that will be passing by. I can tell you how every little child of that valley, that beautiful valley, will be petrified, terrified, mortified of what is coming next. I haven't spoken to my family since 26 days. I don't know. My 1-year-old nephew who's asthmatic, he needs nebulation twice a week. I don't know whether he's getting it. I don't even know whether he's well or not. I have a father, like many of you, who is a heart patient and he's on life-saving drugs. How long can our stocks last? We don't hold medicine like this, but there is no access. I don't even know whether he has it. I don't even know whether he is there or not. We have had to run Twitter campaigns to inform families of deaths of their loved ones. Can you imagine the pain of that? Can you imagine somebody telling you, a civil officer in uniform coming to tell you of a natural death, leave alone the killings by army or by the police? There are reports, as Faisal rightly said, that there are reports of the Civil Society of India. And this is not from ISI. This is not from any other media outlets. This is not from some jingoists. This is from the civil society who went and visited Kashmir on ground. And they do report that children as young as 10 and 11 are being snatched out of their beds in the middle of the night. Can you imagine the pain of those mothers? Those wailing shrieks, they just echo in my ears throughout the night. I don't sleep. I have a 10-year-old nephew. And I'm mortified to think. I shudder at the thought when his face crosses my eyes. I cannot understand this. How can a child of 10 pose a terror threat to a large democracy like India? I am dying 1,000 deaths every moment since 5th of August. And I'm sure so are many people outside and inside Kashmir. Kashmir is under siege, as you all know, and what we hear from the world is a deafening silence. I implore you, and your friends and your colleagues, please take notice of this unparalleled incarceration. This is 21st century, for God's sake. We have moved on, but my valley has not. I urge you to speak up for justice, for humanity, for innocent people whose lives have been rendered worthless and who have been reduced as cannon fodder. No matter what political inclination you have, no matter what side of the divide you are on, please be on the side of humanity. Kashmir is on genocide watch. We are at the brink of history repeating itself. Please do not stand on the wrong side of history. Please stand on the right side of history and be humane. I urge you, from one heart to another, from one human to another, from one daughter to another, please join us in this protest. We are doing it for nothing else but to save our valley, our people, give them the basic rights. Please raise your voices that we all deserve the dignity to live a life as human beings, not as caged animals. This is 21st century, for God's sake. Please step up and do your bit. The most important idea of having this rally here was so that we disseminate more information. There are many people who don't know what is unfolding in Kashmir. Please read up, please speak up, please follow the social media, and do not follow the fake news, for God's sake. This, our urgent, immediate request is, this siege needs to be lifted. This curfew needs to be lifted. Please stand with us and please talk to your MPs, your representatives, that please urge the British government to lift the siege. Britain has a moral responsibility here. We are a byproduct of that partition when Britain left India. We all need to play our part. And so here, as British citizens, it is our responsibility, not only as Kashmiris. To my homeland and my motherland and my people, I would like to dedicate a few lines that are written by Maya Angelou, but I just felt it's so appropriate. They may write us down in history with their bitter, twisted lies. They may trod us in the very dirt, but still, like dust, we will rise. They may shoot us with their words. They may cut us with their eyes. They may kill us with their hatefulness, but still, like air, we'll rise. Out of the huts of history's shame, my land, you'll rise. Up from the past that's rooted in pain, my land, you'll rise. Leaving behind the nights of terror and fear, my land, you'll rise. You'll rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. We'll rise, we will rise, we will rise. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Munazza. That was very, very moving. I said earlier that the Indian Army is deliberately targeting mothers because only a mother would understand the pain of an abducted child. My next guest is a tremendous lady. She's a mother, but also the MP for Oldham East and Saddleworth and the chair of the All Parties Parliamentary Group for Kashmir, Debbie Abrahams.
I'm here to stand with the Kashmiri people, to show solidarity with the Kashmiri people. For decades, people across Kashmir have been suffering, as we know from consecutive United Nations human rights reports. We have to stop this. This has been going on for too long. What the Indian government did, and it is the Indian government, what we must be really clear about, there are many people amongst us who are true democrats, who have an Indian heritage, who believe in freedom, who believe in self-determination for Kashmiri people. This is about the Indian government and their unilateral attempt to revoke Articles 370 and Article 35A, a special status to Kashmir since the 1947 partition. And we must make sure that the rule of law, that democracy, and above all, human rights are upheld. And that's why I'm here. I want to make sure that all of us here do our bit to make sure that we send a message to the Indian government that this is unacceptable. We send a message to our own government, who have been appalling in their lack of response to what they should be doing to protest at how Kashmiri people are being treated, to have a complete blackout of communications, to not be able to find out what so many of my constituents, what's going on with their families back in Kashmir. It is unacceptable. But we must also make sure that the United Nations hears us, because there lies the opportunity for change. This has been going on, as I say, since 1947. Not enough has been done to uphold the Security Council resolutions, particularly Resolution 47 and the similar agreement back in 1972, which ensures that Kashmiri people have control over their future, that there should be, if there is to be constitutional change, it is down to them to determine what that is and how it should look like. And above all, that there is peace. So I really plead to you to sign the petition, which is going to go to Downing Street on Tuesday. I'm taking that with colleagues, which calls for, and if you'll excuse me if I read this out, calls on the government and the international community to act using every diplomatic and economic measure at their disposal to influence the Indian and Pakistani government to ensure that democracies are respected and that the Kashmiri people are at the heart of any constitutional reform of the region, to ensure that the United Nations Security Council resolutions on Kashmir are respected, including Resolution 47, which refers to the people of Jammu and Kashmir having their right to self-determination, and respect the 1972 similar agreement, to ensure that the rule of law is upheld and human rights are protected by lifting the telecommunications blackout and allowing independent international observers to the region, and to support the assistance of the United Nations Special Envoy for Kashmir in facilitating a peaceful and sustainable future for Kashmir and all its peoples. So please, please sign that. We need as many people, whatever faith or none, whatever your background. This is about democracy, it is about the rule of law, and it's about human rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. Our next speaker is also from the APPG on Kashmir. Please welcome the MP for Oldham West and Royton, a good friend of the Kashmiri people, Jim McMahon.
Thank you, assalamu alaikum. And listen, this gathering today is absolutely outstanding. You know, I've been on the all-party group for Kashmir now for well over 3 years in Parliament, and we've been receiving reports after reports of human rights violations that are taking place, while the international community too often turned a blind eye. And now with tensions heightened, with a media blackout, with family in Oldham, my constituents, who are worried not about something that's happening 4,000 miles away, but it's in their heads and their hearts, and it occupies them every single minute of the day. And it's vital that we stand together, we speak with one voice. This is not about nations or governments. This is not actually about Pakistan or India. This is about human rights violations. The right of every single one of us on this planet to live without fear of oppression, to live in peace, to have a quality of life and a purpose. And for too many people, that is denied on a daily basis. And this is not an issue that's been going on for nearly 30 days. This has been going on for years and years and years. And it's time now for international action and for action from our government. When Boris Johnson was the Foreign Secretary, we wrote to him and we asked him to intervene and take action. Even when the UN Commission for Human Rights said the violations were taking place, the UK government turned a blind eye. Well, now he has the opportunity as Prime Minister to put right that wrong by ignoring it when it first was raised with him. We can no longer continue to believe that this is a distant matter when it affects people in Britain today. Imagine for the mothers and the fathers, the brothers and the sisters and the cousins, and wherever you are from, wherever your heritage in this world, say, but there for the grace of God. If it was you, what would you want to happen? You'd want every single person to stand up and speak with one voice and give voice to those people. And that's what I'm here to do today. I stand in solidarity with all of you.
I would like next to invite the Shadow Justice Minister and also the MP for Bolton South East. Many of you know her, Yasmin Qureshi.
Assalamu alaikum, Sat Sri Akal, and good afternoon. Firstly, I just want to thank all of you for attending today to show your support for the people of Kashmir. Only yesterday, the BBC reported that the people in Kashmir are saying to the Indian soldiers, don't beat us, just shoot us. What does that mean? That means that they'd rather be dead than to be alive. And that's hardly surprising when the Indian government soldiers are pelleting people, are blinding them, have made everybody in their homes house arrested. They're coming and taking children and others away in the middle of the night. Nobody knows what's going on. There are almost 700,000 Indian soldiers in Kashmir. The people of Kashmir are suffering. It's hardly surprising that they say they'd rather be dead than to be alive. But that's a real sad indictment on the international community. In this world, no one seems to be coming out to help the Kashmiri people. Instead, you have the disgraceful sight of the United Arab Emirates King giving Modi the highest peace honor. Absolutely disgraceful. They should know better. Modi is the man who was responsible when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat for the massacre of at least 2,000 Muslims. This is the man who the United States would not allow him to enter in the USA. And now, because everybody wants to access the Indian market, they're all signing up to please him so much. I think it's absolutely disgraceful and disgusting. And I want all of us here, tell our family and friends who couldn't be here, that we need to fight for the cause of Kashmir. And let's make one thing straight. The Indian government propaganda is, to the world, Kashmir is part of India. No! Kashmir.
No!
Free Kashmir! Free Kashmir! Free Kashmir! Free Kashmir! Free Kashmir!
Kashmir has never been part of India. In fact, Kashmir was not even part of the British Empire. It was always a separate state. And there's a UN resolution which says that it is a separate state. And there's a UN resolution saying that they should have the right to determine their own destiny. But sadness is that nobody has been pushing for their right. And over the last 6-7 years with Modi's BJP, Hindu, fascist, right-wing government, the Kashmiris are being bled. They are being abused. And this is all happening with the consent and blessing of Mr. Modi, who is actually encouraging this. And remember who Modi belongs to. RSS. 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 And who are they? They are the Hitler Nazi Party. Hitler Nazi Party. They are your right-wing Hindu fascists who want to make India just a Hindu country. And you know, it's not only the Kashmiris who are suffering, the Muslims in India, nearly 180 million of them are also suffering, because India has gone in a dangerous course of trying to become a completely Hindu state, and the Muslims and Christians and the Sikhs and other minorities in India are also being attacked. But really what's happening in Kashmir, they've gone beyond everything. So what's the way forward? Because it's all good to talk, but what are we going to do in practical action? Now I and many of my parliamentary colleagues have written to the Prime Minister, have written to the Foreign Secretary to get involved in it. We have contacted leaders of other countries, ambassadors of other countries, to get them to involve in it. But you know what we need is all of you here, write to your members of parliament. Go and see them, forget about writing, just go and see them in their constituencies. And across the whole country, go and see them and tell them what the India is doing to Kashmir. Because at the moment, the Indian government lobby is stronger than anybody else. They've got their bots, they've got their trolls, and you know what? They're learning their lessons from another country which is doing something very similar, like the government of Israel in Palestine. Modi and Netanyahu meet each other regularly, and Netanyahu is teaching Modi what they have done in Palestine, what they've done in the West Bank. So what we need to do is please contact your MPs, please let's have nice peaceful demonstration against the Arab embassies who are supporting Modi. Let's get out, get people together. One of you need to go and contact everybody else so that we don't have thousands, but we have millions of people coming out to defend the rights of Kashmiris. Thank you for coming today. Continue your hard work.
Free, free, Kashmir! Free, free, Kashmir! Free, free, Kashmir! Free, free, Kashmir! Free, free, Kashmir!
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Our next speaker is a long-standing friend, not only of the British Muslim community, but also of the Kashmiri people. He also sits on the APPG. I'd like to welcome the Shadow Minister for Northern Ireland, Tony Lloyd MP.
Assalamu alaikum, Sat Sri Akal, and let me say namaste as well, because this isn't about divisions between people. This is about protests against a fascist government in New Delhi. It's about a Prime Minister Modi who is taking India more and more to the right wing, a harder and nastier form of hatred. Hatred for Muslims, which we're seeing again today in the state of Assam, but we're seeing in particular in Jammu and Kashmir. But let's be very clear about this. This dirty little quiet war isn't new. This isn't something that's come up in the last few days and weeks. This has been going on for year after year after year. We demand freedom for people to live their lives without fear. We demand that women should be able to walk the streets without fear of sexual abuse, of rape. We demand that young people should be able to congregate, that young people should be able to walk the streets without a pellet gun sending pellets into the back or into their eyes and blinding them. We demand that old people can go about their business, because that, in the end, is what freedom is all about. Now, I won't speak for too long. You've heard many speeches. You've got more to hear. I just want to make a few points around this, though. Look, human rights are indivisible. We stand for human rights in this country, in the Middle East, and we stand for the human rights of every man, woman and child in Jammu and Kashmir. Their rights are our rights. Freedom cannot be turned on for some people and turned off for others. So there's a very clear message to Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi, what you're doing is an outrage against human values. It's an outrage against what the world expects of a modern government. We have got to say something this. You will never silence the people of Jammu and Kashmir, even with your block and information, because in the end, I'm the voice, you're the voice, we're the voice of the people of Kashmir, and we will shout for them. We'll shout to say freedom, we'll shout to say human rights, we'll shout to say justice. These are our brothers, these are our sisters. Inshallah, they shall be free.
Thank you, Tony. Our next guest is someone I don't really need to introduce, but I will anyway. The Vice Chair of the APBG on Kashmir and the Shadow Minister for Immigration, MP for Manchester, Afzal Khan. Good afternoon and Assalamu alaikum. Come on, we can do better than Manchester. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for seeing so many of you, thousands here. I think we owe it to Kashmiris to be here in thousands. Isn't that right? And now we're going to walk with them, not stand with them. We will walk with the Kashmiris till they get the freedom. Is that right? Thank you to the organizers. Thank you to the other parliamentarians for the work they do. Let me start with the one promise. We will make sure that we do everything that is possible that the Kashmiris are free. Inshallah. Because what the Kashmiris want is freedom, which we all have. We are born free. No one has the right to enslave us. It is not acceptable what India is doing. India is going against its own constitution. It's going against the Shimla Maida. It's going against the UN resolutions. So it is shame on India. We've got to make sure, when we say we will work with the Kashmiris, that we in Britain do everything that is possible to get the message to the British government. It is the history, imperial past of Britain that we have this mess. Is that right? UN, we are the permanent members. Britain has the double responsibility not to be neutral, not to look for trade, but to stand with the humanity. We will make sure that this government does that. You have the responsibility to reach out to every council so they pass a resolution. You have a responsibility to make sure every political party in Britain passes a resolution so we have a policy in Britain that we will have free Kashmir. Promise me that we will do that. Thank you very much, and let's keep up the fight till the Kashmiris are free, our brothers and sisters. Thank you very much. Thank you, Afzal. Our next guest, do you know what? I'm reading off all these titles of our dignitaries, and it's all too easy to forget that they're actually normal human beings. I mean, our next guest is Gina Dowding. She's on the Foreign Affairs Committee for the European Union. She's also a Green MEP, but first and foremost, she's also a mother. Please welcome her on stage.
Thank you, and I'm so delighted to be here, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. As I was introduced, yes, I'm just a normal citizen of the Northwest. I live in Lancaster. But 3 months ago, I was elected to become a member of the European Parliament for the Green Party for the first time. And that's an honour and a role that I take very seriously, no matter how long that role lasts. And I was very keen to be, to represent the diverse issues and the whole range of our communities in the Northwest in the European Parliament. So as has been said, I'm on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I've been contacted by constituents already about the desperate situation in Kashmir, and I'm looking to see what I can do in the European Parliament to get a statement of condemnation by the Parliament over what's happening. Security in Kashmir can only come from the respect for human rights and self-determination. Time and time again, the UN agencies and human rights organisations have found how Kashmir's human rights are being violated. It's time to put an end to the decades of violence and human rights indignities suffered by the inhabitants of Kashmir. And the decisions by India to unilaterally end those rights of Kashmiris is deeply disturbing. And I just want to say, I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I will do what I can as your representative in the European Parliament. In fact, on Monday afternoon, there is a debate on this issue. It's in camera, it's kind of like a private meeting. And we're worried about why it's been organised in that way. But I will be putting your voice forward to demand for democracy. Freedom indeed, and thank you so much and good luck. Together we can work for freedom and for peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gina. I'm going to tell you a very interesting story about our next guest. I'm not going to give him any titles. But over the last 6 months, he managed to secure, in his role as MEP, a historic hearing. Now, we see and hear and read about these things, but I actually got to witness this firsthand. And it wasn't easy. One of the things he had to do was go and lobby MEPs and quite important figures from all across Europe. One of the things I saw him do, listen. So he listened for half an hour to the vice chair of the Human Rights Committee in Europe, who's an Italian, and he doesn't speak a word of English. And I saw this man nod and listen to opera for half an hour, all so he could just get this hearing through. Please give a warm applause and welcome to Wajid Khan.
Thank you. First of all, can I just say a massive well done, congratulations to my brother Faisal Khan and all of his team to put this wonderful gathering on today. Ladies and gentlemen, forget listening to opera for 30 minutes. I'll die for Kashmir. Because them mothers are our mothers, them sisters are our sisters, and them children are our children. So what do we want? When do we want it? I want to just say a few words because I've spoken before to other people. I want to share with you a little story which an Indian journalist from Indian-controlled Jammu Kashmir told me. She said, when I was MEP, she came into my office and said to me, Wajid, my father served in the army and he told me single-handedly that army personnel would kill young Kashmiri youth and they'd say, oh, they are terrorists. They'd commit fake encounters. Why would they do this? Because they could get extra promotion in the army general. They are, Kashmiri people are giving blood, not from now, for 70 years. I salute their resilience. That Kashmiri blood isn't cheaper than Mancunian blood. We are their voice. And let me tell you something now. We will never give up on Kashmiri brothers and sisters. Will you give up on them? Will you fight for them? Will you march for them? Let's keep up this fight. And once again, well done to all of you who have battled the rain, the weather, storm. I don't care if there's a tornado coming. We are here for Kashmiris and we'll always be there for Kashmiris. God bless you all.
Thank you, Wajid. It takes a lot more than a bit of rain to stop us here in the northwest. Our next guest, the Imam from Victoria Park Mosque. He's also an Oxford University graduate. Please welcome Imam Hamza.
I greet you all with the greetings of Islam, the greeting of peace and love. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is a great honor and privilege to be here today. And before I begin, I think it is very important that we highlight one fact. This is not a matter of any religion, nor is this a matter of any ethnic or racial background. Rather, we are all gathered here today for one purpose and for one primary objective. It only takes you to look around. We have Pakistanis, we have Kashmiris, we have people from all different ethnic and racial backgrounds. And the reason for that is because we are gathered here for humanity. Those actions which are taking place in Indian occupied Kashmir, it does not only go against the Constitution of India and the United Nations resolution, but it is a clear breach of international law. And this is an outrage which should be recognized globally. This is not an issue only for the Pakistanis or the Kashmiris, but rather the consequences of this will be global if we do not address this in the manner in it should be addressed. The reason I say this is because the people in Kashmir, they are humans like us. It has nothing to do with religion. It is to do with humanity. It was not their choice to be born in Indian occupied Kashmir. Why should they be deprived of food? Why should they be deprived of medical assistance? What is it that we have that is better than them? It is nothing. My brothers and sisters, we were with Kashmir, we are with Kashmir, and we will continue to speak and walk with Kashmir until they have complete freedom. It is a responsibility upon all of us, but even more upon us British people and British citizens. Many of you may be thinking why I have said it is more of a responsibility upon us. We are considered a more developed country. We consider ourselves to be a liberal, sectarian, developed country. And we as Britain and as British individuals, we label other countries as third world countries. We fight for freedom rights. We fight for freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And at the same time, our brothers and sisters have absolutely no freedom whatsoever. So this is an issue that glows, because we do not want this to lead into an armed war with two nuclear-powered countries that will have global consequences. We are with Kashmir and we will remain with Kashmir till they seek freedom. Jazakallah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Imam Hamza. I hope you're all okay with the rain. It's not going to rain heavy, so please don't let that put you off. I just wanted to welcome our next guest, Councillor Yasmin Dar. She sits on the highest governing body of the Labour Party, the NEC, the National Executive Council. She's also the founder of the Jammu and Kashmir Self-Determination Movement. Please welcome on stage, Councillor Dar.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Peace and blessings to you all. Assalamu alaikum. Before I start with my speech, I want to read out something that we all should be aware of. So I'm going to read out Article 5 from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment or punishment. So my question to you, brothers and sisters, is, are the human rights of the people of Jammu and Kashmir being violated? Louder, are they being violated? Second question, has Europe and the world turned a blind eye to the evil atrocities and inhumane brutality being administered on our children, on our elders, on our brothers and sisters? Right, you guys know all the answers. You know what is happening. So you have a duty to bring others from other communities, from other nationalities, from other races, to let them know what is happening in Jammu and Kashmir. We have to now raise our voices. Okay, so it's been 72 long years that the voices of Kashmir have been silenced. And I implore our leaders are you guys. Every one of you here standing today is a leader to take back to your communities about what is happening. We need to make sure Kashmir's right to be free happens now in our lifetime. How many more years of torture, curfews, atrocities, rapes, massacres, murder, genocide is going to carry on? Over 26 days have gone by since Jammu and Kashmir has been under a communication blackout and internet shutdown. The persistent violation of the people of Jammu and Kashmir is deeply affecting the Kashmiri communities across the world, as we can see today. We are all equal stakeholders in this world, and we all have equal rights. Therefore, we need to be more active when we condemn or when we stand up for the oppressed. Every human life is valuable. It doesn't matter where you're from, whether it's from Africa, America, the Middle East. Every human life is valuable. So for the people of Kashmir, we stand up in solidarity with them. And let me remind you, this is not a Pakistan or an India issue. This is an humanitarian issue. Yeah. And each one of us has a responsibility and duty. Awaken the humanity within. Raise your voices for the people of Kashmir. Many of us are raising our voices from different groups and different organizations, and this is impressive. So thank you to everyone that does that. But we need to show that we are united and stand in solidarity. People like yourselves have and can have a positive effect. We need to continue momentum and stop being armchair politicians. There's no point in you sitting at home and complaining and condemning, or some of you thinking it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect my family. Each one of you has a duty. There is no more sitting at home and thinking, I'll watch the news and, you know, have your moments and get emotional. Get out there, sign the petitions, get to the demonstrations, and bring your families with you, not just yourselves. When we stand against this evil of occupation, we need to raise our voices to seek justice and peace. We should not tolerate any abuse. Kashmiris need their right to freedom, their right to live, their right to peace, their right to be human. Every one of them has the right to life, liberty, and security. And no doubt there are leaders in this world that cause death and destruction. We need to condemn them. We need to raise our voice loud and clear when we condemn. And so today, we condemn the Indian government. We condemn the Indian government for their atrocities. They are evil terrorists. They are killing humanity. We cannot be the victims anymore. Kashmiris cannot be the victims. We are definitely not the perpetrators, but we cannot be the bystanders. We cannot stand by and let this happen. Each one of you has a job to do. Each one of you needs to lobby your councillors, your MPs and your MEPs. If you do not write to them, why should they stand up for you? So don't be lazy anymore. Get up, stand up for the people of Kashmir. Sign the petitions. We've got petitions here at the back that I need you to sign. And even I want more of you to write to the Indian Commission, condemning them and telling them to stop the human rights violations that are taking place. I'm going to end with a saying from a famous writer, Edmund Burke. The only thing required for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. So brothers and sisters, let's not do nothing. Let's stand in solidarity for our brothers and sisters in Kashmir. Free, free! Free, free! Alhamdulillah, God bless.
Standing behind me, again, a very familiar face. When I was still in nappies, this guy was lobbying for Kashmir. Can you please give a warm welcome to Raja Najabat Hussain, chair of the Jammu and Kashmir Self-Determination Mosque movement.
نحمده ونصلي على رسول الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. Can I thank all of you for raising these flags, raising your voice for the Kashmiri nation on behalf of the suffering people of Jammu and Kashmir from Srinagar. Our brothers and sisters are not only occupied but caged by the Indian forces in these days. So what you need to do, you have heard a lot of speeches. I'm not a big speaker, but I am a lobbyist, and I would like to request all of you to join us in the British Parliament on 3rd of September, because we are having a women's conference, we are having a protest about this Kashmir issue against the British government, because British government is not doing enough. They are not speaking for us. So you should come and join us in London on 3rd of September. Thank you very much for joining us today. Sign this petition, which is going to be presented by our MPs from north of England, led by Debbie Abrahams from Oldham. So please sign this petition so we can put this petition to 10 Downing Street on 3rd of September. Thank you very much for your time, your support, your energy which you are giving for the Kashmiri people suffering in Indian occupied Kashmir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Look guys, I know we've got a lot of people here who've been fighting for this cause, again, since when I was a baby. Look, we don't know all of each other, and the events like this are an opportunity to network and get to know each other. So I do apologize if you've not had the chance. There will be more opportunities. But look, what this is really about, it's about the people who are really suffering on the ground and their families. Our next guest, Sumaya, she's actually got family in Srinagar. She's not spoken to them over 3 weeks. Imagine if that was you. Sumaya.
It's day 26, and I, along with thousands of Kashmiris here, have not been able to contact our families back home in Indian occupied Kashmir ever since the complete communication and media clampdown in Kashmir by the Indian fascist regime. The Indian government has imposed a curfew imprisoning 8 million people in their homes without food and vital medications, completely cutting off all communications, conducting mass arrests of more than 4,000 people, including journalists, lawyers, academics, and students. There is a perpetual military presence of more than 800,000 Indian soldiers for 8 million people in Kashmir to create a state of fear, terror, and isolation. Kashmir is right now a vast concentration camp. Can you believe living under continual military presence with an Indian terrorist in uniform pointing a gun at you all the time, terrorizing you? Indian forces are kidnapping children as young as 7 years old in night raids and torturing them, terrorizing families, vandalizing homes, and molesting Kashmiri women. Reports of unspeakable torture and blinding and killing of civilians by Indian forces are coming out. The Indian government is refusing to issue death certificates for civilians killed by the Indian army. This is how the groundwork for genocide is laid, when the government refuses to admit that people have been killed. The most frightening thing is that 95% of the Indian people, they see nothing wrong in all this. My own Indian friends justify all this. This is a very casual embrace of the fascism that is right now the norm in India. And anyone who questions or rejects the Indian state, fascism is called an agent or a traitor and is jailed or killed. All over media, majority of Indians are in fact openly asking for genocide and oppression of Kashmiris. Just look over the internet what Indians, common educated Indians, doctors, engineers are writing on Kashmir. Pathetic, disgusting. It's funny how India calls critical international media fake news while being caught lying with their pants down every time. They speak of democracy and independence while being a colonial aggressor and an occupying power in Kashmir. Indians openly fantasize and speak about possessing Kashmir's land and Kashmiri women as properties and their dreams of establishing a Hindu fascist empire where minorities are oppressed and killed and no longer exist. India, you have been exposed for the world to see what you actually and truly are. A brutal fascist terrorist nation that has violated all the rules of democracy and international laws. The entire world knows about your Hindu nationalist fascist settler colonial project in Kashmir, your plans of ethnic cleansing and genocide of Kashmiris to change the demography of Kashmir. People are learning how you use torture and rape as an instrument of control to terrorize the people of Kashmir into submission. They are learning how you intentionally blind civilians, children, by firing pellet guns directly into their eyes and faces. They're learning about the 10,000 plus enforced disappearances, the 100,000 plus civilians killed in your custody and the fake encounters, the home demolitions, the thousands of mass rapes by Indian occupation forces. Like Kulan Pashpora massacre, which everyone knows, when 80 women were raped in a single night by Indian fascist forces. Pregnant women were raped. 80-year-old grandmoms were not spared. 8-year-old girls were not spared that night. I urge every freedom-loving person, every truly democratic and free nation of this world, like UK, like the United Kingdom, speak up for the oppressed people of Kashmir and the occupation of Kashmir. Free Kashmir. India, you're a fascist nation. History is witness to the fact that all fascist imperialist nations have been destroyed, they have disintegrated, they have fallen, and India, so will you. Free Kashmir. Inshallah.
So, I've just got an important announcement to make. Everybody, people on this side, can you please come this side? Can you see this B here? The Manchester B. I'd like you all, especially behind the stage, unless you're speaking, to come this side. It's very, very important that you do that. The police have instructed us to do that. Please comply with their instructions. Can I ask you to come on this side? Guys, this way, one meeting. Everyone on that side, please come into here. Do not respond to any provocation. We live in the age of social media. We live in an age of photographs, optics. People want to provoke us. They will take a picture and send it around viral and lie about us. For too long have we tolerated this. Do not give them an excuse. Let's show them that we can unite. Let's show them that we can control ourselves. And we will represent who we are. And to all those who think they can, you are mistaken. So once again, my brothers, that side, I implore you, I beg you, come into the middle. Our next speaker, again, I don't really need to introduce him. Councillor, he has many titles, Basit Shah from Oldham.
Assalamu alaikum. Let me correct one thing. I am not a counselor. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I am only going to take a minute of your time. Only 1 minute. You have heard every single issues and the acts that's been violated by the Indian government. You have heard that Modi is fascist and carrying out the ethnic cleansing. And what we are here for, the question that we need to ask, why we are here. We are here because the world is silence. We are here because that you, I, and every one of us are the voice, the ambassadors of Kashmiri people. Nobody wants to be the ambassador at this moment of time, but we will, and we are the one, and we will raise our voices until they remove the barricade and the barricade in Kashmir. We will stay here and we will continue that until Kashmir is free. My brothers and sisters, every single Kashmiri is suffocated. Every one of them are going through hell on earth, and it's affecting on here in on our doorstep. If we are going to be silenced, we are going to repeat the history like Hitler took many lives, millions of lives back in the days. And let's not repeat history. Let's stand together and protect the people who are vulnerable. Let's stand together against the oppressors. I thank you very much.
Kashmir! Do you know what? Sometimes it's not the words of our enemies that hurt us the most, but the silence of our friends. And in this time, I know that you know who our friends are. From Stop the War Coalition, again, someone who needs no introduction. Please, can I ask my good friend, Ron Century, to come and speak.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you. And solidarity for the people of Kashmir. We will not rest. We will not rest for a moment while the Kashmiri people are imprisoned by Modi. He has acted because he thinks he can get away with it. Modi has acted because of Islamophobia throughout the world. When Donald Trump spends more time attacking the mayor of London than defending the people of Kashmir, we know what side he is on. When our Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and there was a demonstration in town today, 7,000 against him, when he says Muslim women are like bank robbers and letterboxes, Islamophobia, that is encouragement to Modi. Those people are creating the background that Modi thought, I can get away with it. Also, they've stopped all information coming out. They do that because they don't want us to know how the people are being treated there. He is a criminal. He should be put on trial and prison for the rest of his life. We stand together as a people. It's not about religion. It's about solidarity. It's about human rights. It's about the very future of our world. We stand together as our brothers and sisters. We link arms. We stand with each other because an injury to any one of us, whether they're in Kashmir, whether they're in Palestine, whether anywhere, is an injury to all of us. And I say that we all have to stand tall, stand strong, stand there. We will never give up until Kashmir is free, Free Kashmir! Yeah.
After the arena bomb, there was one voice from our mosques and our religious community that really represented us. Imam Irfan Chishti.
Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah, and we send salutations upon His noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's an honor and privilege always to be amongst all of our communities here. I've been here many times before, many of you have as well. But we're here today to represent the voices of those who have been silenced. And alhamdulillah, many people before have said the same things that I want to say. But what I have to remind you of today is in the year 616, I repeat, 616 to 619, 3 years, our noble and blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he suffered an exile, he suffered a siege that today our Muslim brothers and sisters in Kashmir are suffering as also. 3 years in Shi'bi Abi Talib, the siege that the Meccan so-called Arabs of that time, the elite community, the leaders of that community, those in power and control, just like today, the Indian government, the terrorist Indian government, putting our Muslim brothers and sisters in siege in Kashmir. Our own Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he suffered that same kind of siege. And you know why he suffered that? Everything that our noble Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam did, he did to teach you and I how to respond. And he did that to teach you and I that, you know what, no matter how much injustice, no matter how much cruelty, no matter how much violence and terror, Muslims and human beings of justice will always reign. So my dear brothers, I am conscious that there's Muslims here and there's non-Muslims, but this is first and foremost to my own brothers and sisters. I am proud to say I'm of Kashmiri descent. I was only there in April and I saw that beautiful valley that I can see from my ancestral home, that occupied territory that I can't walk into because another's violent and terrorist government is stopping me and my family go back to the roots that we belong to. So I'm personally from that land, but I don't come here for that personal message. I come here with the message of our noble Habib. If he suffered that siege, 1616 to 1619, remember those dates. How did it end? How did that siege come to an end? How did the Muslims at that time become victorious? They came victorious because they had the Nusra, they had the help, and they had the hand of Allah with them all the time. There was a treaty written. Somebody before me read out a treaty of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There was a treaty written at that time, and it was hung up in the walls inside the actual Kaaba. And that treaty said that for 3 years or for beyond, we're not going to trade with these people. We're not going to allow them to have their normal means of living their life, just like what we're seeing today in Kashmir. And guess what? There was revelation from Allah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taught and told that that treaty no longer is valid. He was someone who abided by and respected all contracts and agreements. He put himself in that difficult position, just like our brothers and sisters are today. But guess what? The Nusra from Allah came, the help from Allah came, and when the time came, he said to his people, go see that same treaty that we'd signed no longer is valid, because as it happened through divine intervention, that treaty, the physical treaty that was hanging in the doorway in the house of Kaaba, that had diminished. Allah has made it diminish. Allah's help will always be there, always, from the time of the Prophet Muhammad to right now. But you know what? Me and you included, to receive the divine intervention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to receive his divine help, we've got to turn to him. And the only way to turn to him is to say, yes, Allah, we will abide by what you direct us. And what you're doing here today, my brothers and sisters, is exactly abiding by his order and his commands. And that is to stand up, the greatest voice and the best jihad. And I repeat, the best jihad is to stand up and to raise your voices against a tyrant, a violent, a terrorist leader. And that is what you're doing. God be with you all. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
Anyone heard of Extinction Rebellion? They're all over the news. They're here as with us. Maddie.
Hello, I'm here from Extinction Rebellion. We're standing in solidarity with you today and the people of Kashmir. What's happening in Kashmir has met with silence in the media and government inaction. We've seen time and time again in conflict all over the world, in the Republic of Congo, in South Cameroon, and in the case of our own climate crisis, that the media only speak when it suits the vested interests of the people who are financing them, that the government only acts when it suits their own interests and their narratives. As Extinction Rebellion, we have 3 demands. Our demands is that the government tell the truth, that they act now, and that a citizens' assembly of ordinary people oversees the actions that they take. These demands are loose, they are broad, and they apply to how the government should act in any time of crisis. They should tell the truth. They should act now, and it should be the people who govern the direction that this action takes. We are occupying a space down in Deansgate, and we would love to extend the invite to all of you here today to come and join us and stand in solidarity. It's so important that we come together in times like this, and that together we are far more powerful, and that we will only achieve change if we come together. So we're down in Deansgate. If anyone after this will be marching down, we have music, we have discussions. It would be amazing to carry on this with you. Thank you.
Over the last few years, right in this space, the racists from the EDL and the BNP and all the other fascist groups turn up. And I've turned up on a few occasions. On every single one of those occasions, there's been one woman present. Retta.
Oh, I don't know. Hello, everybody. Salam alaikum. There have been too many occasions over the last 20 years when I have stood in this square with people who have come to Manchester from many different parts of the world. They are either first or second or third generation from many different parts of the world. And they have found themselves having to stand in this square to demand that attention is focused upon the acts of inhumanity, the murders that are taking place in their countries and not in their name. And in every one of those examples, without exception, the roots of colonialism and the roots of imperialism are running very, very deep. And Kashmir is no exception. The people of Kashmir, the people from Kashmir who are here today, are suffering the legacy from that colonialism and that imperialism, alongside the Congolese sisters and brothers, the Rwandese sisters and brothers, the South Cameroon sisters and brothers, the Palestinian sisters and brothers. So there is tremendous unity to be forged between people who as individuals occupy different national identities, but fundamentally are suffering under the same yoke. And I put it to you that at the end of the day, that yoke in 2019 is the yoke of international capitalism. It is the yoke of the multinational. Whose vested interest is it in to have Kashmir locked down? Who's making money off the blood of the people of Kashmir? These are the fundamental and hard questions we have to ask each other. The far right, the clarity with which speakers here have identified Modi as a fascist, this is very necessary. And the sister Yasmin Qureshi drew the connection between the fact that Modi is talking with Netanyahu. Who is Netanyahu talking to? Trump. Who is Trump talking to? Johnson. Their net is actually a very small little cabal. They are part of the 1%, and we are the 99%. We are the 99%. So I would urge all of us, when we finish this today, to, with great honour and confidence in ourselves, to take a walk together and join the sisters and brothers down on Deansgate, who are basically facing the same enemy. The enemy is everyone who would seek to dehumanise any of us. But together we cannot be beaten. United we will win. Thank you.
Thank you, Retta. In London, I don't know how many of you went, but we had a huge demonstration, 50,000 people on the Strand. And alongside us, there were the Khalistanis, the Punjabis, and one of them is here with us today. In fact, their leader, one of the most noble men I've met, Dana Singh. Shall I hold?
We are assembled here. We are assembled here in face of Modi's aggression, his fascism and neo-Nazi. It's a shame on India. It's a shame on all the Hindus in India who have remained silent against the atrocities committed by Modi and his government. They are equally responsible as Modi. They are culpable. In 1984, when there was genocide of the Sikhs, a commentator said, it's a day civilization died. Well, civilization has died a death in India with 26 days of imprisonment of the Kashmiri people. I stand with you, Kashmiri people.
We stand with you.
I am son of Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. Every Sikh has a duty to help the persecuted brothers in Kashmir. And I appeal to the Sikh regiment. Your allegiance is to Guru Granth Sahib Ji and Nishan Sahib. Your allegiance is not to the tricolour flag of India. You are to stop atrocities being committed. You must come forward. And Modi is trying to wage a war on India, on Pakistan. And I say to the Sikh regiment, you will not attack the birthplace of Guru Nanak Nankana Sahib. we are together with our Muslim brothers. I was involved in the Khalistan Liberation Movement in 1988 at Dar Adam Khal. We were in training, and we were in training with our Kashmiri brothers. And today, I stand with them until you are liberated, a free Kashmir and Khalistan. God be victorious. The spirit, the Hindus, they rely on the Sikhs. They are very cowardly people. They have no spirit. Their spirit, they believe in God as they believe in God in a stone. And their spirit is going to break like the stone breaks. Free Kashmir! Free Kashmir! Freedom! Khalistan! Bole Sonia Hala!
Thank you. I don't know if you've seen the Manchester Beer here. One of my friends, Bilal, who was actually nominated as Northwest Businessman in 2018, he's brought this. And it's so important because we're not just Kashmiris and Pakistanis, we have so many identities. We're Pakistanis, yes. We're Kashmiris, yes. We're also mothers, fathers, British, Mancunians. Bilal, tell us.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I want to say that Imran Khan is the first Prime Minister of Pakistan that still, with all this violence going on, is going to be opening the border for the Sikh brothers to perform the pilgrimage. He's open to, he tried to speak to India many times, and India have not only prosecuted Muslims throughout India, the butcher of Gujarat, Modi, is at it again. He wants to try to annex Kashmir. They've already persecuted Christians, Sikhs, many times over, and we have to stop this. As human beings, this is a duty and a right to wake up our conscience and speak for the voiceless people of Kashmir. We are all a voice for the people of Kashmir. And today, I want to stand there, and I said to Faisal, he had a small estimate, said that they will come in the hundreds and thousands. In this short notice, you guys showing up here today shows your solidarity with Kashmir. And it's not going to stop here. We all have to write to our MPs. We have to write to our local councillors, whichever platform we can use. We have to carry on and speak to, make this voice heard throughout Europe, UK and everywhere. We're not going to stop until the siege is lifted from Kashmir. This is inhumane. Today I demand that the Kashmiri people be given their human rights, let alone civil rights. This is one of the largest humanitarian crises. 30,000 RS thugs have been sent in to slaughter people. If there's nothing going wrong, as the Modi government claim, why was Rahul Gandhi not allowed in, the opposition, into Srinagar to go and have a look? Forget about the UN and everybody else. Their own opposition party weren't allowed in. Now, I'd like to end it with, everybody has to remember this is a world crisis and it's a humanitarian crisis. These two countries are armed with nuclear weapons, and If this spills over, this will affect the whole world. So it's everybody's responsibility to try to de-escalate the situation. And that's what I'd like to say. And I'm really happy to see you guys here today. Keep up with the cause. Power to the people.
Can I invite on stage from Oldham, Councillor Dr. Chauhan.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Good evening. I'm not going to take too much time. I'm just going to pose a few questions for you. Just imagine this Manchester was an open jail. How would you feel if this Manchester city was an open jail for you? And that's what my Kashmir is at the moment. Just think, 2 miles down the road, MRI hospital, if that hospital was a graveyard, if the doctors from that hospital were coming out and were arrested by police because they're speaking up, saying, we can't save these people because we got no drugs, how would you feel? Just think about those mothers who lost their children. Their children are missing person, but they've been buried in unnamed mass graves. No one knows where those children are. There's over 10,000 missing people in Kashmir. Is that not something what Nazis did? Is that not something what happens in Serbia? What else do we need to wake up and say, let's save humanity? It's not about Muslims, it's not about Hindus, it's not about Sikhs, it's about far-right Hindus who want to impose their mentality, their fascist thoughts on us, on subcontinent, on the whole world, to kill off those innocent human beings who reside in Kashmir. Please come out, please support, please speak up. Look at that poster. Brother, turn it around, show these many similar, these men been blinded by pellet guns. Look at that children picture who's been wounded with pellet guns. Tell me what's going to happen with them. Is that our human responsibility to come out, speak up, and do whatever we can? Thank you, brothers.
Fight racism. Bob Shepherd.
Thank you. I bring solidarity to this event from the newspaper Fight Racism, Fight Imperialism. We condemn clearly the Indian government's occupation of Kashmir, the siege and the attack on human rights there. The fact is that Britain bears the ultimate responsibility for what's going on there at the moment. It was the partition of the Indian subcontinent in 1947 when the British imperialism raped and pillaged across the Indian subcontinent to defeat the revolutionary movement of peoples there. It is that which led to the death of thousands of people and the situation that is in Kashmir now. The Indian government has used what they call Section 100 to ban the assembly of 5 or more people in Kashmir today. And that Section 100 law is a law that the British colonialists brought in. Modi is supported by Britain, supported by Trump, supported by the EU, by Netanyahu, because Modi is an agent of imperialism, because India is a massive market that British imperialism needs to get into. That's why Johnson will not criticise Modi, because under Brexit, British imperialism, this British government is determined to get into the Indian market. What's going on now in Britain, the so-called coup imposed by Johnson, which is not really a coup at all. A coup was imposed on Kashmir. What's happening now in Britain is parliamentary manoeuvres by parts of the ruling class in this country. But what it shows is that parliamentary democracy in this country is a sham. We need a new movement, a movement out on the streets that can build support for ordinary people, whether it's in Kashmir or here, whether it's in Palestine or Kashmir. That's what we need, a new movement. Freedom for Kashmir and self-determination for the Kashmiri people. The plebiscite that Britain and the United Nations promised the Kashmiri people in 1947 has never been put into practice. That's what we need to demand, self-determination. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Guys, I just want to say a very quick message. Look, you know what we've done here? It's amazing. All across the country, we're turning out in huge numbers. When I was growing up, I was told, we cannot unite. That's the problem with our community. We have no unity. That we cannot organize ourselves. But look around you. Of course we can. Now look, at the back here, I've got a lot of people who want to speak. I'm sure some of them are probably better than Martin Luther King himself. But, my brothers, I'm sorry, not on the day of the demo do you come and ask to speak. Where were you on Friday, on Thursday, on Wednesday, Tuesday when we were organizing? When we were organizing this? Please do not come just because there's a mic. Unless you can sing like some superstar. Let the people who've got the stories tell them. Our next speaker is someone very important to me. An ally of ours from the Sikh community, the Guru of the 5 Mandars. He's been with us at every point. When the EDL, Tommy Robinson came, they brought a Sikh on to say, look, Islam is not the problem. Sorry, we're not racist. It's Islam that's the problem. Look, we've got a Sikh guy. And then we brought Bhagwant Singh, and he brought the entire Sikh community into Trafalgar Square, and he said, no, you are racist, and you will not divide us. Bhagwant Saab, over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure, and I take pride in being with you today. And at the same time, I'd like to share with you that the Sikhs in India itself have stood up and said to all the Hindus, do not touch a Kashmiri woman or child. You will have to go past me. So my brothers there have said that. As a Sikh, I have a moral responsibility, personally, to stand behind anybody who's being oppressed. And your families are being oppressed. Now just imagine, this thing I want to share with you. We sit here and we say, 10,000 people have been incarcerated. So many kids are being shot at, this, that. Now just go home, sit down and think. Just imagine if it's your child who went to school this morning, and then you get a message, your child's not coming home. Now that's the kind of messages are going to the parents out in the valley. Now that cannot go on. We all have to do something. I will do my bit. I will write a letter to my MP. I will try and tell my friends this thing should not happen. You also should do that, because it should not happen to anyone. And if we all do that, slowly, God will make the leaders change the way they think. This is not the answer to problems. There are better ways of solving problems. You don't imprison a whole country just because you have a problem. Now, that's not the way to do it, and we must not let that be the way. We all have an individual and a personal responsibility for it, so do it. Otherwise, there's nobody out there in the wilderness waiting to come and do it for you. You want something, we deserve something. We only deserve it if we are prepared to go out and do something about it. So you have your chance. I will do mine. Do you do yours? Thank you.
Our final 2 speakers. Just before I introduce them, I'm going to reiterate again, look, I know a lot of people want to speak, they've got a lot to say, but we're not all Martin Luther King, certainly not me. It's not the easiest thing to do standing up here. But if you are really passionate, there are so many of these events happening. Just 5 miles from here, on the 7th of September, in Oldham, Parliament Square, there's a huge event happening. I will be there. Will you be there? We'll be there in every city, in every town, all across England, to stand with the Kashmiri brothers and sisters. Because look, I do not have a mother in Kashmir right now under the occupation of the Indian Army. My mum, bless her, she's still safe here. I'm going to go see her after this. This is about the people of the occupied Kashmir. Let's give them center stage. It's about them. Our final two speakers are both from occupied Kashmir. The first, Suraya from Srinagar.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your patience. It's not easy. A lot has been said, a lot has been heard about Kashmir. But what I'm here to highlight is the impact of this huge humanitarian crisis currently in the Valley of Kashmir that is having impact on sick people and patient care. I'm a doctor by profession. I was raised and born in the Valley of Kashmir. I have been settled here for the last 30 years. And I'd like to raise awareness about the human rights violation that is having impact on a population of 8 million people who are incarcerated by a total communication block imposed by the Indian government. Coinciding with this communication block is the deployment of heavily armed forces in a zone which is already the most heavily militarized zone in the world. The first and the foremost impact of this is on patients who require emergency care. Can you imagine in the 21st century, if you have a heart attack, you cannot call for an ambulance? Patients are unable to get dialysis for their kidney problems. Those who have respiratory problems can't get to hospitals for oxygen and nebulizers. The second impact is on medical supplies. Pharmacies are running out of medical supplies because of this communication blockade. They cannot order from their distributors medical supplies. The third impact is food supplies are running short because of this total blockade, telecommunication, internet and mobile phones. The last impact that I want to mention is on our young people. Schools and colleges are indefinitely closed, and this is having an impact on our young people who are denied of the opportunity for education, leisure, communication, and subject to brutal military oppression. So I would like to have the support of our fellow citizens and wider international community to tackle this huge humanitarian crisis and help the people of Kashmir Valley. Thank you.
From occupied Kashmir again, our final speaker, Maha.
Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon everyone. I just want to start by actually thanking the organizers, the guys in the high-vis and also the police for allowing us to carry out this peaceful demonstration. I think without them today would have been frankly impossible. So my name is Maha, I'm a British Kashmiri. It's been 26 days since the identity of every Kashmiri has been stripped away from us. 26 days since I've had contact with my relatives in Kashmir. I've still not wished my elders an Eid Mubarak or sought their blessings after my exam results were released. Even my cousin, who left Kashmir recently, told me he was unable to contact our other cousins only a few kilometers away from his house. On the 5th of August, the revocation of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution meant Kashmir lost its place as a state with whatever little bit of autonomy it had left. The Modi government and its nationalist supporters claim that this has all been done in the name of progress and integration, and that this is an internal matter of India. But I ask this, how is it progress when all communication lines, internet, and access to the outside world are banned? How is it integration when Kashmiris are put under house arrest because of curfew? And how is it an internal matter when there is evidence to the entire world of gross human rights violations. When Narendra Modi went on air and addressed the Kashmiri people directly to reassure them of this bright future ahead, how did he forget that not a single Kashmiri could hear him because of the communications ban he himself has put in place? The actions of Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah are evident to any educated person that the welfare of Kashmir is not on their mind. Instead, they want to take our land and allow settlers to change the demographic of my home. And what about the response from the international community? Or should we say lack of response? It's all very well for foreign governments to comment on the severity of the situation and condemn the actions of the Indian government. But we've reached the point where words are not enough. We need unified, effective action from the international community. More and more we are hearing about civilians being injured by the army and thousands of Kashmiris as young as 12 years old being picked up and arrested without committing any offense apart from just being Kashmiri. Mothers are so scared that they are afraid to send their children to school. Are Kashmiris not humans that deserve every protection of their rights under the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights? Now let's imagine that instead of Kashmir in India, this was Scotland and England. Some Scots want independence, but England are against this. So in the middle of the night, they deploy thousands of troops, cut communication lines and internet access, and declare that Scotland's identity is to be changed to a union territory. But Scots, don't worry, this is what's best for you. Even saying these words, I feel ridiculous, as I could never even fathom this happening because of the illegality and international outcry that would be inevitable. But this is exactly what has happened in Kashmir, and the international community has shamefully turned a blind eye. Kashmir has never received the appropriate recognition or response from the international community it deserves. We have suffered so much under the occupation of the government, but now more than ever, they need our constant vigilance and support. So please, I plead to you all to continue to express your anger and outrage, continue to speak of the violations occurring in my home, and continue to spread the word online so that we can ignite some form of response from our government. And I also want to request everyone, please right now put aside any views on India versus Pakistan or Hindu versus Muslim, as Kashmir has always been culturally diverse, with contributions to societies from Hindus, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, Jews. We are one people. Remember that the Kashmir crisis at the moment, at its heart, is a human rights issue, and we all have a moral responsibility to speak up against the atrocities committed against our Kashmiri brothers and sisters. So I say, free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! 1, 2, 3, 4! Occupation no more! 1, 2, 3, 4! Occupation no more! 5, 6, 7, 8! India is a terrorist state! 5, 6, 7, 8! India is a terrorist state! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Louder! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! हम क्या चाहते हैं? आजादी! जोर से बोलो! आजादी! छीन के लेंगे! आजादी! हम क्या चाहते हैं? आजादी! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! Free, free! Kashmir! One slogan, one track. Go India, go back. 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 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 5, 6, 7, 8. India is a terrorist. Thank you.
Thank you, Maha. I have one bonus speaker for you, Sadia Siddiqui. Sorry, Shanaz Siddiqui. Sorry.
I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. There are a lot of people that wanted to speak. They've not been able to speak, and that shows the passion. And it shows the passion. I've spent a lifetime, an absolute lifetime of campaigning for Kashmir. I'm a mother and a grandmother. And I say to my children that it is you that needs to speak, because on the day of judgment you will be held accountable for what you have done for the Kashmir brothers and sisters. There are people amongst you who will talk about rape. There will be people amongst you who will talk about the atrocities. people amongst you will talk about the murders. The reality is that the government of the United Kingdom stands in silence. The reality is the government of United Kingdom needs to stop the trade with the murderers. It needs to stop the trade with the international communities who are allowing Modi to receive awards. Shame on you. Shame on every government. Shame on every politician. Shame on every person who stands in silence. And my brothers, every brother that stands here, those sisters that are being mutilated, those daughters who have been raped, and those children that are being abducted are yours. They are not Indians. They are not Kashmiris. They are yours. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created humanity. Man created divide. So hold yourself accountable. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you so much. She mentioned a very few important points there. Yes, there is a lot of complicity. The Indians can only get away with this because the world is silent. Do our lives not matter? Does our blood bleed a different color? No, it doesn't. Well, look, we do have a plan that we've had for the last 20 years. So look, the first thing you can do is go to that voluntary gazebo over there and sign the petition. That's something you can do right now. Next to it is a voluntary form. My brothers and sisters, yes, we have been fighting a long time, but we don't have the skills, or we've not had the skills in the past in our community. But now there's a new generation of educated professionals, and we need you. Please, please look us up on social media. Go to lovekashmir.com. There's an organization in your town. Save Kashmir, Free Kashmir in Oldham, D4J in Blackburn. There are various organizations in different towns. You can do something, and together we can unite and make a difference. This week, we have been putting pressure on UNICEF to get rid of Priyanka Chopra, the warmonger. Twitter and social media has sent us legal notices to shut down our accounts. Normally they do not get a reply, but do you know what we've done? Because we're not living in India, this is Britain. We're taking them to court. Let them answer. Now, my brothers and sisters, thank you so much, because this was all about you and it wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you for making that journey. Look, even the sun has come out for us. I just want to thank the volunteers here. Do you know what? Our community does have the talent, the skills. These guys came at 11:30 and set all of this up in 1.5 hours. It was amazing. Please, can I ask you to give them a round of applause? And also, congratulate yourselves, because what you didn't know earlier, the racists from EDL turned up right over there to provoke you. And just around the perimeter there is the police. And they told us, please do not be incited, do not react. And you didn't. You did not allow them. You did not allow them the opportunity to get a social media victory. Tweet using the hashtags I gave you that are on the sheets in front of you. GMP, Greater Manchester Police, MCC, Manchester Council, thank you so much. Please, can you clean up and just tidy up any litter, mess, use the bins, go home safely, enjoy some shopping. And some of us are actually going on to Deansgate straight after this to meet the Extinction Rebellion. There's only about 100 or so of them, but they've closed down the whole of Manchester. We can learn something there. We need to do our demonstrating and protesting differently. Let's get smarter. Let's get faster. Let's get better. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.